Hey, everybody. Hope you are doing well as this is an open forum show. That means we can go in any direction you want. We can give you the opportunity to call the show. You can ask me a question. Here is the link. This will take care of it for you. And you can call me. We'll get you on the program, or you can just use the chat line, ask me questions, and we will go back and forth that way. We are talking about the NFL as Mr. Kelsey has said that he is coming back to the Chiefs. That's right. Travis Kelsey did not want to go out that way. So he has announced that he will be back for another season with the Kansas City Chiefs. The NBA, you've got the Warriors currently playing the Orlando Magic in Orlando, and the Magic have the lead in the first half. The Warriors have been red hot, but right now they are trailing by the score of 59-47. Cody wants to know, what do I think of the new look Raiders, Brady and the rest? To me, it starts with the coaching and Pete Carroll. So, and I know that question was not directed towards me, it was directed towards Al, but I think that having an established coach is so important. I think Brady, obviously being part of the ownership group now, is certainly a much needed improvement. The question is, will Mark Davis just stay the hell out of the way? That's really the key. Will Mark Davis stay the hell out of the way? Because that, to me, is what needs to happen with the Las Vegas Raiders. So we'll see. But I like Pete Carroll. I think that obviously that is a step in the right direction. And the bad news is that division, the Raiders are clearly the worst team in that division. But, it's the NFL and things can change in a hurry. Things can change overnight in the NFL. That's for sure. All right, elsewhere tonight in the NBA, in addition to the Magic leading the Warriors, it's now 64-49. The Bucks are home to the Nuggets. The Mavericks are home to the pitiful, pathetic Hornets. The Pelicans are at the Suns for the first of two. They will also play again tomorrow. And then Minnesota is at the Lakers. I was talking about this earlier today with a buddy, and he asked me if I think, he goes, what on earth were the Mavericks thinking? And we talked about this for about 20 or 25 minutes about the concerns about Luka with his off the court habits. And I had heard about that before he was drafted in the NBA. That was not news to me. But wasn't Luka in the NBA Finals last year? So let's just say that you're bothered by that as an organization. Isn't pro sports a win and loss business? Isn't it about results on the court or on the field or whatever the case may be? I mean, isn't that what it's all about? Haven't his results in Dallas been incredible? And so the thought was that the Mavericks wouldn't be able to get where they wanted to go with Luka. Well, weren't they 4 wins away from that last year? That part's a little bit puzzling to me. That's the part that is puzzling to me. I just wonder, like, what is your goal as an organization? Plus, he's going to sell out the building every single night, right? I don't know. I just, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially with what you got back in return. And listen, Anthony Davis is a hell of a talent, but he's hurt a lot, right? He's hurt right now. And if the Mavericks don't win and don't get at least to the NBA Finals in the Anthony Davis tenure, or the tenure of Anthony Davis in Dallas, that's going to be one of the worst trades in NBA history. I don't understand it. The part that puzzles me is not trying to get maximum return for him. I think you could say the same thing about De'Aaron Fox, although I have said this, and I will say it again. I think De'Aaron Fox is an overvalued player. I think he's good to very good, but he's no more than that. Do I think De'Aaron Fox will be booed or cheered? I agree with your partner, Ryan. I think it depends on what the Kings do for him. Well, they put up a promotion of the Spurs game in March with his face on it, and it got booed at the arena the other night. So that gives me an indication. I've been very open about this. I don't think the Kings should do anything for him. And if I were at the game, I would boo him. I don't like his act since he's left. I don't like his act before he left. I don't like leading up to it, his behavior. I did a long rant on this when he was traded. So you can go back and check it out. I just think, he is, I keep on hearing the word all-star in front of his name. He's in the league 8 years. He's been on the all-star team once, and he was added on because of injury, right? He's never won a playoff series. He's been in one playoff series. And look at what he's doing in San Antonio. He can't put the ball in the ocean. So, do I still live in the Sacramento area? No, I do not. I was thinking about the NBA, and somebody said, gee, you didn't get enough for Luka, or I would agree with that. Because I don't know what the Kings draft picks are going to turn out to be, I can't answer that question right now. Did the Kings get enough for him? But to me, and I'm not Monty McNair, and I was not privy to what was going on, I don't think the Kings did. I don't. Cody wants to know, would I want the Giants to give up a few draft picks and a new contract to get Matthew Stafford? Stafford would be a short-term answer at quarterback at age 37. And the Giants are not close, in my opinion, even with a top-flight quarterback, to competing in that division with Washington and Philadelphia. And so the answer to that question, Cody, for me would be no, because I want a guy that is going to be the new face of the organization, which I know is easier said than done. You don't get a Daniels from Washington every year. You don't get players like that every year. But the Giants, to me, need a younger quarterback and somebody that they can build around. Because Matthew Stafford, let's say, Cody, that he has 2 really good years left, and then his skills decline like we've seen with Aaron Rodgers and others as they get to that plateau. Like, what good does that do the Giants? Doesn't do them any good. I don't know. It says the Jets are going for the number 1 pick and offering a load of picks to the Titans. Stafford ain't worth a few draft picks. Well, it depends where the draft picks are. He's a hell of a quarterback. So, I mean, it depends, Let's see here. James Cook, running back for the Bills, wants $15 million per year. Would you pay that much for a running back? I would not. But look at what Saquon Barkley did for Philadelphia this year, right? Eduardo, hola, watching in Chile. How are you, buddy? He'll stay in LA. He's had way more success with the Rams. We'll see. Having success or lack thereof doesn't really have anything to do with it. Kings did not get stuck with giving Fox the Supermax contract. Very true. Now that's true. That's very true. Fox wasn't a good enough player for the Supermax. Totally agree. Totally agree. I'm thinking Dable and Shane want to keep their jobs. They need results now. Well, that's the point I'm trying to make, Cody. I don't think that Matthew Stafford gets you into the playoffs because I think the Giants have too many other issues. I think offensively they would certainly be better. I still see issues in certain key positions. Now, the Giants have $45 million of cap room. They've got draft picks. But right now, even with a top flight quarterback, at the best, they're the third team in that division. Yeah, I'm not a Dak Prescott fan. I'm not a Cowboys. Dallas doesn't really do much for me. You know, Zach Martin retired. Their offensive line's not what it used to be. You know, to me, if Micah Parsons is not on the field, they got issues. You saw what happened last year when he went out along with Lawrence. I think Matthew Stafford, at best, makes the Giants an 8 or a 9 win team. That's at the best. I just don't see it. I really don't. All right, let's get to some phone calls. If you want, the link is available for you, and you can give me a call using that link or the QR code above my shoulder, and I'll be more than happy to get you on. All right, let's check in with Gammon right here. Gammon, how are you today?
I'm doing well, sir. I apologize about my audio and video. I'm
Well,
not
your
in.
audio's fine. Your audio's fine, so don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I do have a couple questions for you, Mr. Grant. What do you think about the Yorks selling a stake in the 49ers? Um, what are the main opinions on this, and do you think there's any deeper meaning behind it? I just find it particularly rare, and I'm not exactly sure what the motivations are behind it. But it doesn't seem like something that you see a lot of owners doing with this. So maybe I'm reading too much into it, but is it?
Well,
Do you
you know
think it
what? The
has?
same thing's going on in New York with the Giants and the Mariners, and uh, looking to do the exact same thing. I don't have I haven't done a lot of homework on this, Gammon, in terms of what's going on at 49ers with the ownership. I haven't really given it much thought. I did see it. The same thing in the Giants. I haven't given it much thought. It happens occasionally. You're right. It doesn't happen a lot, particularly in the National Football League, because owning an NFL team is such a hot commodity, and it puts you in a very prestigious position. But I haven't given it that much thought, Gavin, to be honest with you. I haven't given it that much thought. Again, being a Giants fan and seeing what's going on in New York, where I read the same thing is going to be going on with the Giants, I was asking myself, that's interesting, because the Maras and Wellington Mara is one of the founding fathers of the National Football League. So that name is synonymous with the Giants, but I haven't given it a lot of thought, to be honest with you.
And to be fair, not a lot has really been published or put out there to you as far as the information. So there's not a lot of fat to chew on, if you will, on that subject. But I just decided to pick your brain on that.
I don't think it's that big of a deal with the NFL salary cap, unless you get a meddling owner who doesn't know what he's doing, which, we have seen that in the NFL, and that can be a real problem. Or you get a Daniel Snyder type of an owner, and I can go on and list some other names. I don't personally think it's that big of a deal, Gaiman. That's just me, though.
Understood. And that's why I wanted to ask before I started to tunnel or go into the wrong, too deep into the rabbit hole, if you will. Um, I'm not really too surprised with the welcoming that Fox will receive. I remember before the season even started, I posed a question to you and I said, is De'Aaron Fox overpaid? And you said something very thoughtful, I thought, in an answer that I hadn't heard from anybody. And you said, well, compared to what? The nurses saving lives, teachers, military personnel. And so with that, I agreed. But his leadership, and I'm gonna, he's very nice on the basketball court, but his leadership, I always felt left a lot to be desired. That I don't really have a question there. That was just really kind of a statement
Sure,
for me.
no problem.
I did want to say or ask this one question. We're kind of up poop creek without a paddle as far as this roster goes. I think that this team will make the playoffs. It's a little bit more well-rounded. There are some nice things going on.
Yeah,
think that
personally, I disagree with you. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. That's I think they will if they get into the play-in. I don't think they'll win the play-in. I disagree. But go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I see it just slightly differently, only because I feel like there's going to be some gelling that's going on. I don't have a very good. I'll be honest with anybody listening. I don't have a lot to stand on here. I'm just assuming, and this is kind of dangerous to do, but there's a lot of two player type basketball, right? We have Malik Monk and Sabonis, and then we have Levine and Malik, or I'm sorry,
And DeRozan.
And
Keegan Murray.
and so you have, right. Well, I feel like Keegan Murray is kind of the odd man out and has always felt like an odd man out, which is kind of interesting. I feel like this team is better off suited for making some tough shots. I'm hoping that those two players or those tandems that we're talking about, they can cross mix their talents and they can learn each other's games. I just don't think that there's a lot of depth there because we have two players that do a lot of ISO ball, and it's nice in certain stints in the playoffs, but I just really think that it kills ball movement, just to be honest there. But I do think that could get us to the playoffs.
I disagree. I don't think you can make the playoffs without a bona fide point guard, which the Kings haven't had in years. I don't think their defense is good enough to make the playoffs. I don't think their three-point shooting is good enough. And I'll tell you something else, Gammon. When I look at the upcoming schedule, which begins coming up on Saturday against the Houston Rockets, and then I look at the schedule the rest of the way, I got to tell you, I don't see 10 wins on the board right now. I think they're going to have a real challenge, Gammon, winning 40 games. That's my opinion.
I agree. I think it's going to be a challenge either way. And whoever they see in the first round is not who we want to see in the first round. I mean, let's just be honest with that. What are the actual options that this team, this franchise has to improve the roster in the offseason?
You have to go back and look at the picture that's bigger than that. And that is, if the Kings do not make the playoffs, and I'm on that side of the fence, you're on the other side, does that mean that Monte McNair will not be retained? And in my opinion, he will not. And then at that point, you have to bring in a new general manager, and the new general manager is going to want to hire their new coach. So you would have a new general manager and a new head coach. So it would start there.
How is the funding for this front office, and how robust is it comparatively to other front offices? That's question number one.
What do you mean? What do you mean? How is the funding for the front office? I don't understand.
Good question. So the payroll, as far as how deep is our team? That a GM for this Sacramento Kings team, how many people deep is this comparatively to maybe
all organizations are pretty much the same with their front office hierarchy.
Okay, so same number of people and that sort of thing, and they put in a similar pay or budget for their front office. That's
for the most part, yes.
Okay, so that's one question down. Another question is, after we ran off a guy like Mike Brown, and then we put in, which I think was in a popular internal hire with Doug Christie, and then if they have to wash their hands with everything, what kind of level of prospect for a GM and coach tandem do you feel that an organization like this can get? Because to me, I don't feel like there's an A tier.
Very middle of the road at best. The Kings are not an attractive job because of their ownership, and that's the reality, and everyone in the league knows it. So
I'm looking for hope here, Grant.
I'm pausing for a minute because I want to say this accurately. You're not going to get top of the line people to come in and coach and run your team as a general manager, but there are those that do want a job, that need a job, but it's not going to be sexy if I can say that.
Yes, you can, and that's I'm grasping for straws for hope here, and where I don't know how to ask this, but what are our options with dealing with an owner like the current owner that we have right now?
Yeah, Vivek Ranadive. Gammon, I'm going to answer it this way. Everyone knows how Vivek is. There are no secrets in the NBA. All agents, all executives, all potential coaches know about everyone in the league. There are no secrets. And there have been many other coaches, the Michael Malones, the George Karls, I can go on, that have spoken out about this and then privately talked to their colleagues. The coaching fraternity in the NBA is a close-knit one. There are no secrets. The word is out. It's not an attractive job. It's just not.
I guess this is just my last question, Grant, because I just feel like our best thing is just to get practically swept in the first round, and then we have no way to really build or add to our roster, either on the top half or even the bench. But as a fan, and if you were to walk me off the cliff here, off the edge, what's something that I can either way, no matter what happens in this offseason? We're talking about the King's Court, but I just, as a fan right now, I feel like a peasant. What is something that I can feel I can hang my hat on, or that gives me hope in the next 2 to 3 years? And
I
thank you
can't
for your
answer.
time,
I can't
Grant.
answer that question right now. It's not a question that can be answered because there's too many variables right now. All right.
That's scary.
There's too many variables right now. I think that I need to get the final 25 games or whatever it has left. Off the top of my head, less than that, and then then figure out, Gammon, whether we're going to have new general manager, a new coach. There's too many variables right now that I don't know, so I can't really tell you what it's going to be like for you to not, jump off the rooftop. All right. Hey, I'm going to move on. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
Thank
You
you,
have
sir.
a good one. All right.
You as well.
Take care. So, when you talk about the future of a franchise, right? And a franchise that is basically in a state of flux, I wonder if this team does not make the playoffs, will Vivek look for a new general manager? And in my opinion, he will, for a couple of reasons. Doug Christie, to me, will not be retained as head coach. He will remain with the organization, but he won't be the head coach, and I'm fine with that. I think Doug has done a good job, but I think that his inexperience shows on too often of a basis. I think Doug has the ability someday, with more seasoning and more experience, to be in that position, maybe even with Sacramento sometime down the road. I've been very open about all the time that I've spent with Doug, all the conversations we've had about basketball, the things I've learned from him that I had really not thought of before. So I know Doug inside and out. And I also know that he is a rah guy. And by that, I mean, Doug's all in. And I think it is very frustrating in this day and age when he has a group or has players that don't have the same mindset that he had. I think that's very difficult for him. And I think it probably keeps him up at night. But I think the Kings need a Terry Stotts type of a coach. I think they need to have somebody that is widely experienced, that would come in with a new general manager in tandem, step in step. That's the only way this thing could possibly get better. I don't like the Kings roster. I like some of the pieces of the roster, but I don't like the fit. I don't like the fit. I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't like the fit. I think it's very disjointed. But I do like Bennett's, whether it's the West Side Grill, whether it is Roseville or the Sacramento location. Prime Seafood and Steaks at Bennett's. Go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. That's Bennett'sRestaurants.com. And you can make a reservation. You can get down there for the weekend brunch, which I love when I'm in town, Saturday or Sunday. I love going to Bennett's, whether it's the location in Howe and Fair Oaks. I take my son there often because he lives near there. Lunch, I very often go to Roseville. And then when I go to dinner with some other folks in the Roseville, Rockland area, we go to this location, Bennett's West Side Grill. Prime Seafood and Steaks at Bennett's. Go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. So, now I look at the Kings and they don't excite me in terms of the big picture. They have some very good players, but they don't fit. There's too much inconsistency, not only from game to game, but quarter to quarter. I don't like what I see. I think they got real problems. Now, could they make the playoffs? They could. I don't think it's going to happen. John Calipari told his Kentucky players to just keep their heads up and know you're going to be in a bad organization when players got drafted by Sacramento. Well, I don't think that's fair. First of all, I think John Calipari is as overrated as any coach in the history of college basketball. That's number one. Number two, when the Maloofs owned the Kings before the economy tanked in 2007, the Kings were a coveted destination for free agents. Free agents were telling their agents, get me to Sacramento. I want to be a part of that. That's the truth. So that doesn't mean that's the way it is now, because it's not the way it is now. But with the right situation, it could become that again. More unlikely than likely. But I'm using the Maloofs when they got to Sacramento and the Kings were the darlings of the NBA. That happened overnight. The Kings went from a non-playoff team to a lockout 50-game shortened season where they made the playoffs at 27-23. Jay Will, Webb, Vlade, all new to the team. Then free agents wanted to play. Then you signed Scott Pollard. You made some good trades. And the Kings were off and running, and free agents wanted to play in Sacramento. So as far as John Calipari and what he's told his Kentucky players, I think that is the narrative, and I don't think it is untrue or unfair about maybe Calipari telling his Kentucky players. But one of the reasons why the Kings were such a bad organization during the era of most recent was one of the players that John Calipari coached, whose name was DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus made the Kings an intolerable organization. DeMarcus made the Kings a destination of stay away. He made coaching impossible. So John should have had a conversation with DeMarcus about how to be a professional and how to grow up, instead of telling him, you're going to a bad organization, blah, blah, blah. So it's just the reality. No one gets excited about the 10th seed. Well, the 10th seed, you're correct. If you're not 1 through 8 after the play-in tournament, there is nothing to get excited about. You're exactly right. This is what Willie Cauley-Stein said. Well, Willie, I have a lot of respect for Willie. Cody, I'm not saying that what you're saying is untrue. I'm just saying that he should have had a conversation with DeMarcus, okay, and told him you can't act in the pros the way you act here. That should have been the conversation. Not that you're going to a bad organization. That should have been the conversation. Obviously, well, it wouldn't have mattered even if you had that conversation. He wouldn't have listened. Hey, New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. They're available around the clock 24/7 for your plumbing needs and repairs. Love the feedback I've been getting for those of you that have used New Works. Thank you very much. And they thank you as well. Always love to hear positive feedback. Remember, New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you, and they are available 24/7. And don't forget, during the post-game shows, I have a rant with Grant, brought to you by EDH Motors, Automotive Reimagined. And right now, David and Adam, just two guys trying to do something different and better, are looking to sell your vehicle. And you have all the information there, the phone number, the email, or you can go to edhmotors.com, check out everything that they can do for you. If you're not looking to sell your vehicle, you're looking to buy, and you don't find what you're looking for on their website, don't worry about it. David and Adam, with their decades of automotive experience, will get it for you. Again, just go to edhmotors.com. EDH Motors, Automotive Reimagined, David and Adam. This is a long overdue concept. They do a great job. Again, that's edhmotors.com if you're looking to sell your vehicle or buy or whatever the case may be. Glad to have you with us right here. We're not going to go super long today. Just wanted to get in and talk a little bit about what's going on. Who do you think the Kings fans hate more, DeMarcus or Fox? Well, first of all, I don't think hate's the right word. I don't think the fans hate either of the guys. Calipari always has DeMarcus Cousins back. Well, yeah, because Calipari is loyal to the university that he works for. I mean, I understand that. Let me see what the score of this game is here. I'm not surprised by that. But, I mean, what did DeMarcus do for John Calipari other than give him a lot of headaches? Right? Did they win with him? No. I mean, I think John Calipari is the most overrated coach in college basketball. I mean, it's a results-oriented business. With all of the great talent that he had at Kentucky, they won one championship this century. They won one championship since 1998. How many times they get upset in the tournament? Huh? How many times they get upset in the tournament with 4 first-round draft picks on their roster, or 5, or what have you, year after year after year after year? They got one championship, one, with Calipari at Kentucky for that entire run, and that was with Anthony Davis. 73-72 right now, the Magic over the Warriors. Who was a better player, Reggie Miller or Mitch Richmond? Both tremendous. Mitch, a much better defensive player. Reggie, a dynamic player. That's a great question. That's a great question. I don't know. That's a great question. Mitch, though, Mitch was a special player because he was a two-way player. Big difference. Big difference. I think that when you look at being a player that can play both offense and defense, and Mitch was a great defensive player, not just a good defensive player. He was great. Do not forget about that. Do not forget about that. It says Kentucky lost 1 year to Robert Morris in the NIT. Listen, go look at their tournament record under John Calipari, and look at the talent he had, and look at all the times they were upset and didn't do this, didn't do that. Great recruiter, but I don't think he's a great coach. Sunrise Landing, the newest residential community in Calusa. Go to CalusaSunrise.com and get all the information that you need at Sunrise Landing. Again, CalusaSunrise.com will get you everything that you need. And remember that you have beautiful models to choose from, 6 in all, no Mellorews, no homeowners, adjacent to the Calusa Golf and Country Club. Sunrise Landing from Blazona Development, CalusaSunrise.com, where you'll check out beautiful Sunrise Landing. Don't forget, Kings coverage resuming on Saturday, pregame with Rhino, halftime with Jerry, and then the postgame show. If Jordan wasn't in the 90s, would Richmond have been the best 2-guard? That's a great question. I don't know if I could put him ahead of Clyde Drexler. There were some dynamic 2-guards there. He would be right there. He would be right there. There's no question. I think, Mitch was an elite player. He was an elite player. And Mitch could play with his back to the basket, which you don't see anymore for the most part. He could do a lot of things. Great shooter, great competitor, tremendous defensive player. He had all of that going for him. All of that going for him. Do I think that the current Kings team is the softest one they have ever had? Feels like even during the 2018 to 21 seasons when they stunk, they weren't as soft. They're pretty soft. They're like pillows on the court. Ever? I don't know if I would say ever, but they're pretty soft. It's a very good question. Very good question. All right, I'm going to conclude. I want to get in 35 or 40 minutes today. I will not be able to do a show tomorrow, but I'll be on with you Saturday when the Kings take on the Rockets. Really appreciate all of you for your support. Thank you very much. Make it a good evening, or wherever good thing I don't have to talk for a living. Make it a good evening, or wherever you are around the world, like Eduardo in Chile, or those that watch in Asia or down under, wherever you may be. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.